Laughter Meets Inner Peace.
We're your host, Shaka.
And I'm Kiana.
And we just want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of your favorite podcast, Alignment and Healing. We want to thank everyone that's been on this journey with us. We're in season 3. Could you believe that we're 3 years into this podcast? That's crazy.
Crazy. That is so crazy.
But we want to thank you guys to being on this journey with us. Okay, we really appreciate you. And if you're now tuning in for the first time, I'm grateful that you're here.
Yes.
And remember to subscribe.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah, subscribe, hit that like button, and remember to tell everyone that we're back. Tell a friend to tell a friend.
We're back.
So we're starting hot for this season, right? This episode, we want to talk about something called colorism, right? And you're thinking colorism. We know about racism, but what is colorism? What is colorism, Kiana?
So, colorism is basically when, you're judged because of your skin tone, especially within the same race.
Yeah.
A lot of times, people who are darker skinned, melanated, highly melanated, most times are at the receiving end of colorism. People are like, you ever hear anybody call somebody black boy, black girl, etc., etc.? Like, that is a form of colorism.
Yeah. And I guess that we have that a lot in our community. That's something that is something that's normalized.
Yeah.
I would say. But
it is.
Yeah.
It is normalized.
It is
because, like, again, back to the nickname, like, you get nicknamed after physical traits. So if you're dark skinned, they will call you black boy or black girl. And, obviously growing up in the Caribbean, you have to get thick skinned because that's just the norm, right? And the thing about colorism is not always just playful teasing. It can be very harmful, to how people perceive themselves, how they view themselves. Because if you're at home, you're being told that, oh, you're black and you're ugly and your hair hard. It can be a bit extreme, but it's real though. Some people have those experiences, right? And sometimes, when you have that internalized inside of you, you think that you're so unattractive. And then, in society, especially Caribbean society, lighter skin might be favorable, red girl, like the men would prefer red woman. Some of them may, because sometimes they say, red woman is a whole, it's problem, which could be a form of colorism too. When they talk bad about a red woman,
that's true, because they do say get the vibes like colorism. Red woman, they're more promiscuous. Have you guys ever heard that?
Exactly.
Like, you tried it with that red woman.
Exactly.
Stuff like that.
So it can be, true, but today we're highlighting colorism when it's done towards darker, the darker complected people within the race. So that can be within the black African race. Even in Indian, the darker skinned Indians get treated worse than the lighter skinned Indians.
Yeah.
And it's just something within our culture that we want to highlight and talk about, because we got to talk about it. We got to expose it. We got to shine some light on it, because it's not necessarily okay,
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I've experienced colorism. I don't know, have you guys, experienced colorism? Let us know in the comments if you have and what your experience was. Now, for me, I grew up in a more, like my family, my mom's side, they're a bit lighter. And, my dad's side is darker. And so I'm darker than the average, I would say average family member. Because we would call it like, Douglas. Right, whereby an Indian, a half Indian, half black. They say that term is derogatory too, but I never, in at least Caribbean society, Guyana society specifically, we wouldn't consider Douglas as derogatory, because people like when they know the little mix, they get a little extra, they get a little thing, which all too plays into colorism. But I came out a bit darker than most of my relatives, because my father is on the darker side, and so because of that, I was treated differently in my family, unfortunately. I was seen as darker. I've had, a lot of names thrown at me because of it. And it does
What kind of names?
Well,
if you're comfortable sharing, of course.
no, well, black girl or
Mm.
well, it would focus on my African features, like big lip, big nose. I would
Okay.
have all of that,
Mm.
because and it was so common to me, and I personally hated that I was so dark
Mm.
compared to my other family members. I did hate it a
Mm-hmm.
lot, and I at a younger age, I used to bleach my skin.
Mm.
To be lighter. I used to bleach, yeah.
Yeah.
Back in the day, we used to use Simba and what's the other one, lemon bait. I don't know if you know. And I did do that when I was younger because I did wanted to have a lighter skin because I did not like my
Yeah.
skin tone at all. Now that's not the case. Sometimes when it's winter time and I'm too light, I'd be upset
Yeah.
because I like I like
That
my
rich.
yeah, exactly. I do like my skin, my chocolate tone, I would call it.
Mm-hmm.
I do like that now, but before, but I had to grow
Mm-hmm.
to love myself, so that took took a while. But let us know in the comment, right? Like in the comments, if you experienced that, what was it like for you? Were you treated better if you were lighter, or
Mm-hmm.
you were darker? Like, let us know. Did you
Yeah.
have that experience?
So our experiences are different because so she said she experienced that from her maternal side of the family because we don't share the same mom. Um, I did not experience that. Like
Which is crazy to me.
I only experienced. I wouldn't say I only experienced colorism. I only became truly aware of my skin tone when I moved to America.
Crazy to me.
Yeah, before in my family, because in my family you're talking about dark, like I was on the lighter side for my family because they can
Oh,
run
yeah.
even darker than me. So I was never but being told like, oh, you're dark, you're this, you're that, because there are other people who were being called black boy and black girl and stuff like that within my family. So I'm not saying that it didn't exist, it's just that I did not receive that. And it could be, again, this kind of things, it happens on a spectrum. It
Yes.
varies on family by family because sometimes people might see her, family on her mother's side, and they're like, y'all dark, because there are people way lighter, and they
Yeah.
could have been like, oh, y'all dark. You're not even, who are you to even say that, because you're not even that light to
Yeah.
begin with, right? So I didn't really experience that. And I wasn't even aware. I could be probably being Dululu. But I never had that instance of like, oh my goodness, I am dark. Like, I don't know. I just never did until I moved to America. And then I was living in a predominantly white space.
Uh-huh.
Then I realized, oh my God, I am dark. Like, so now I'm having not only the identity crisis of being dark, but being, and not even about, yeah, it is
Yes.
about being dark, but being other. You're black, you're Caribbean, all these things. Like, I don't fit in at all.
Yeah, but at least you fit in within your community, though. You weren't othered in your community.
Correct. I wasn't othered, but other people were othered within the same community. So
Yeah.
I don't even want to perceive it as, oh, it was a good environment. Because I've seen like whereby like this one lady I follow on Instagram that I really like her Instagram. And she mentioned growing up in an environment because she's dark, her mother is dark, her father's dark, her siblings are all dark. And she's like, she never grew up in America, black woman in America, never grew up with an identity crisis of like, I'm dark skinned, like she grew up with that self love and like knowing that she's beautiful in her skin, in her complexion. And to me, that is profound, especially in America.
Yeah.
Like, that is crazy
Yeah.
because in the Caribbean, we can't even do it when we're
Yeah.
the majority, much as in America.
Yeah, but a lot of people do experience that too. Like sometimes, because in Guyana we're two races. Indian, black. That's most of us.
Yeah.
Obviously we do have other races, and like we do have racism, but sometimes when people say, "Oh, when everybody moved to America, everybody brown, everybody dark,"
Everybody is black.
right? So it's like
Basically, you're
one
white or you're
thing,
black. Yeah.
exactly. So having to move here and deal with a completely different race, then I
Yeah.
could understand where that came from. But yeah, I mean, it's good to have that, to not have that. You think that shaped the way, like your self esteem and your confidence about yourself and how you look, like not
Yeah,
having to deal with that?
I would say yes, in America, living here. That definitely shaped the way I view myself, and in prior in Guyana, and I did not feel that way. I felt like, I didn't feel like anything was wrong with me. I feel like, I was desirable. So I didn't necessarily have that feeling. And I moved away pretty young. So it probably would have come later on in life. Who knows? Um,
I mean, I don't know. Do you think so? Like, because you grew up with a self love
right.
kind of
I
thing.
had I had other issues whereby for me, because I'm pretty tall. Well, relative to the people around.
Yeah,
Again, these
flick
things
it.
are all relative because you might be like, oh my goodness, I'm so dark. You go in a different room with people darker than you. You're like, oh, maybe I'm not that dark. So it's all relative. So like growing up, I was like always like on the tallest girl. So I used to feel like, oh, I stood out in that way. And obviously I grew to love my height. Like now I love it. So I think I had other issues per se. It wasn't my like, my
But
skin.
color wasn't
Yeah,
a
it
main thing.
wasn't. It
Yeah.
wasn't.
Well, for me, I always thought I was very dark.
Which
Like,
is
yeah, no matter what room I was in, I would see
mhm.
myself as a dark person
Yeah.
because, like, eventually I had to accept, like, you know what, you're not as light as your family.
Yeah.
And now I gotta just embrace, like, you're a black girl, just be black. I mean, just be dark. You're
Yeah.
dark, and so I had to deal with that, but I did struggle with that a lot because I really tried to,
Yeah.
fit in and not be the darker side because it's sometimes seen as not favorable. But
Yeah.
I did struggle with that growing up, all my life.
And that
I did
sucks
struggle.
because,
Yeah,
before you even got to love yourself, you were told something was wrong with you.
exactly.
And
And you were being told that by your closest
yeah, so
people.
how would you not believe it?
Exactly.
You will believe it.
Yeah, and there's a thing too. Like some parents, they be upset, but they make you with this black person.
Yeah. That is true. I mentioned that before. Like, you're picking apart kids and stuff like that. The child is 50-50 you, 50 you, 50 you, the person
Exactly.
that you chose.
Person that
So
you choose. So how can colorism affect? And this we touched on this a lot. Like
it affects your self-worth and your
yeah,
confidence because if you're told, like you mentioned, that that you're so dark, and then you grew up viewing it,
yeah,
that is a bad thing to be dark. And nothing is wrong with being dark. Being chocolate is beautiful. Being dark and melanated is beautiful. It gives our skin more protection from the sun. Like, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. We look
yes,
great in any color for the
yeah.
most part. Like, don't play with the melanin. Don't play with the melanin, okay? So a lot of times, when you're darker too, you feel like you gotta work harder. You feel like, just to fit in, like, oh my goodness, if I'm so dark, I gotta make sure I look on point every time. Like my outfit gotta be slapping, my hair gotta be always done. I always gotta be doing the most all the time, every time, just to be on the same level as somebody who's like that ain't doing nothing other than just be existing. And that's sad because why? Why can't we exist?
I mean, that do come from slavery. That is the most of our issues. Do come from slavery. And we've echoed that plenty times on this podcast.
Yeah.
But that is, even back then, the lighter person would be able to be, go in the house. They
Yeah.
would be the house slave. So
Yeah.
lighter is always seen as
Yeah.
better,
And
right?
slavery and colonialization because within Indian culture,
Yes,
they were
yes, true.
colonized. And the same thing applied. Darker skin, that means you're working in the field. Like to be fair skin means you're inside, basically, so you have a higher status.
Yeah.
And that stuff is just ingrained. And it just makes me so sad, like to see, but like how in your case it happened to you so young, because that should never happen. Kids, everyone deserves protection. Or we're a physical being. We This is who we are, how we were born, like this the color of our skin, like those things are just that's how our DNA, aligned, and that's how we came to be.
Yeah.
So that's really sad to see. But
Yeah.
that thing, it affects not only like your self-esteem and stuff like that, but your dating life.
Yeah.
Like
For
recently
reals.
I was watching Pop the Balloon. Love on Pop. And this girl, this light, I think it was like a light skinned guy, caramel complexion, and he gorgeous guy and beautiful, beautiful dark skinned woman, gorgeous. And she popped her balloon before he popped hers because she was like, I don't think you would like someone like me. And people might say, oh, that's low self esteem, but no, That woman is used to being told she's too dark.
Oh, so that is why she popped the
She popped
balloon.
her balloon, and he was like, "Why?" And she's like, "Oh, my color." And he's like, "What? I like women who are chocolate, who are dark like you."
Man, that's
And the funny thing
wild.
is, the two of them ended up leaving that show, and not only did they leave that show and go on a date, they're literally engaged.
What?
They're
That's
literally engaged to each
crazy.
other. So a
Yeah.
lot of times, when you
That
have
is
that,
so good.
if you have that internalized belief that, from your family, from your friends, or whoever is calling you these names, and you're being told that, oh, you're too dark, or they might say, oh, you're pretty for a dark skinned girl,
Yeah.
and stuff like that, that messes with your self confidence in romantic relationships, because
Yeah.
now you can't trust if somebody's gonna like you for you, or if it's some other motive, and you don't know, right?
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
that messes with you, because a lot of times you might settle for relationships who you think you're good enough
Good enough
for.
for, and it's not a good relationship.
Yeah, and it's not a good
Yeah,
relationship.
I think that's a beautiful example. And I think, all the listeners out there, like that, use that as an example for yourself. Because for me, I think people like what they like. Some people
Yeah,
do like lighter skinned
they
people,
do.
and some people do
Preferences,
like,
yeah.
yeah, people like who you like, but don't count yourself out
Out, exactly.
because you might think, oh, because of my complexion. Because that's what a lot of people do. A lot of people say, oh, you must be like a light skinned girl,
That's what.
and sometimes he does, but that doesn't mean that somebody else is not out there for you.
Yeah,
But don't discount yourself because of your skin color,
yeah.
because a lot of people do that because
They
some,
take themselves out,
yeah, and some people
and
do
you
like
can't. I
darker
get
girls
that,
too.
but I get that. But sometimes people do it out of lack of, because of trauma, because
Yes.
embarrassment. Because who knows, in the past, they thought that they had a crush on somebody who's liked, and they ridiculed them so bad, and they're like, never again. I'm gonna take myself out of the equation. And if that's trauma, obviously, empathize with you and stuff like that. But that's something worth looking into, to addressing, to heal from. Because if not, you're gonna always come from that place of pain when you're interacting with, whoever, because you're gonna always have that hurt inside of you.
Yeah, but even when people like who they like why you like who you like too. I feel like there's something too people got to focus, because I'm somebody, for me,
That's a
yes,
good point.
people, I do believe, okay, if you like somebody physical, that's good, but I
Mm-hmm.
think don't be like, oh, I want a red skin girl, or I like the skin person because I hate black women. There's something else black
Or
women.
or they like who they like because their homeboy gonna approve. So
Okay.
a lot of times the
Yes.
men date for the approval of their friends. Cause like, oh, if their friends like light skinned girls, oh, I gotta get there with a light skinned girl,
Men
because
tap in, not all
not all men,
men.
some men. And that's the thing. You need
We gotta
to
do a
ask your
topic on
question.
that.
And women too.
Yes.
Ask yourself, why are you only dating a certain type
Yes.
of person, a certain you? Because whew, I was gonna say, but let's move on. Let's move on. You got that point. Let's move on to that point. But yeah, and one more thing before we move on, because it's not just the color of your skin that people,
Yeah.
would talk bad about, especially if you're darker complected. It's also your hair, texturism, all the
Huge.
ism is a huge
Yeah, that's such a
issue,
big
because
deal.
your hair nappy, oh
Oh
God, your
gosh,
hair
that's
nappy, your
disgusting when I
kitchen, your
hear
this,
that.
your that. And I'm so disgusted, because once again, you make them pick me. They're 50% you. They're 50% the man you choose. The 50% the woman you choose. Y'all gonna love them and respect them,
Yeah.
and teach them how to love themselves, because they didn't ask for the level of hate that, your internal hate. So you need to work on that. You need to address that, because
Yeah.
kids don't deserve to be treated that way,
Yeah.
to be taught how to hate themselves before they love themselves. Like, that's sad.
Yeah, and then that's why, that's one of the ways that, they're affected, because a lot of people choose partners
Yeah.
because they want to have that lighter child or whatever, right? And what does that say? Right? I'm not saying, you know, once again, you like who you like, but why are you doing this? Where is that voice in your head saying
Yeah.
because the reason why you wanna do your genes, right? Because you think,
Oh, do your genes.
yes,
Woo,
because
that's a lot of self hate in that
yeah,
sentence.
because you want to make the child, you know, look different from you, because that's self hate, right? And we we want to focus on that. Like, that's why we want to do this topic, because really think about it. You know, like you mentioned with the nappy hair thing, that statement disgusts me every time, because oh, if they had hard like your father, like you make this child, right? Is the first thing with this man, if he had hard or whatever. But and plus your head probably hard too,
Too,
right?
exactly.
But what you could do about it?
Or because some women forget that it hit hard because they always wearing a wig. No offense, because I am wearing a wig right now, so it is what it is. But they forget, you know, and then they have this little girl that they have to nurture, to
Yes,
comb her hair, to give her
nurture,
pride in
correct.
herself. You got to do the work for yourself to heal too, because a lot of times it's existing trauma that gets passed on, that you're holding inside of you, that now you're passing on to your kids, because you probably grew up hearing that about yourself, so
That's
you
so
even
true.
see calling the child nappy headed is a
That is a
problem.
problem,
And
and
not
it is.
and nappy hair is beautiful hair, let's be for real.
Yeah, but I mean, what is nappy hair
For
even?
type 4 hair that black people grow out of their head.
Exactly, but type 4 hair too, a lot could be done with it.
It's
Some and sometimes
very
4 hair
versatile.
extremely long, and
Very versatile.
with care, you could do a lot with it, because a lot of times, when the hair is stretched out, all these different things,
Yeah.
a lot of parents too, they don't even take the time
They
to
don't.
care the
They're
child's
disgusted
hair.
by it.
Like
The
you,
hair is dry. It lacks moisture. Like you, obviously the hair is gonna be difficult because you're
yes.
not even caring it.
Yeah, like go on YouTube, like see
Exactly.
what kind of type thing you need to use for the child here, or whatever
Exactly.
they're for C4A, whatever. Look
Yeah.
for the products that helps. Like, we living in a time whereby we have a lot of things. Now, back in the days when it was just coconut oil, olive oil,
Yeah.
castor oil. How much castor oil I
Exactly.
use in my ear, and it still didn't make a difference. And we have so many more things that we could do. And instead of focusing on the bad, focus on the good. You
Yeah.
understand? Like, even because I had a little, right?
But that's the thing. We need to unlearn what is bad. Why is it bad?
Exactly.
Who told what the white people, slavery, told us that our hair are bad, that our skin are too dark, and that gets passed down over and over. And then a lot of times colonization repeated that. Why is it bad? Dark skin is not bad. Kinky, thick, curly hair is not bad. Like we
Yeah.
need to do away with that
That's
self
so
hate
true.
belief.
That's
It
so
is not
true.
bad.
It's not bad.
You know, it is hair. It's our hair that grows out of our head. Like why is it bad? It's not, and that's what we need to interrogate that type of thought process, because if you're a dark complected person, can't look at yourself and find beauty, and you're telling me that, oh, you want to have a child, but you're only going to have a child with somebody who's light skinned because you're too dark, I can't have another dark skinned person, please don't have that child.
Oh my God.
Please don't.
A lot of people have already done that. But
Don't do it again.
but and once again, you like who you like, and if that's the reason why you met somebody, I'm big on the internal, right? I'm big on the internal. So you want to look at those qualities, because at the end of the day, you want to raise a child, but you want to raise a child with love, with self love. You don't want them hating on themselves because
Yes, exactly.
you've hated on them, right? Like, we said, your parents are your first bully. This is exactly what you're doing, bullying the child by saying these, because sometimes the kids thinking they're normal, like, and then
Exactly.
you be like, oh, like, so it's because sometimes, as you mentioned, you didn't even realize you was like, oh, like, for me, I thought I was fine black, and sometimes be like, oh, you pretty fat dark skin, I've had that, and I'm like, wait, how dark am I? Like, I'm like, okay, right? I'm like, okay, how dark am I? But sometimes, and now you're self-conscious
And then
about yourself,
another
right?
cut you, but the funny thing is when that same kind of comment is coming from men with the same complexion as you,
Or
or darker, which is insane.
Yes, that's so true. But once again, that comes from I've met a lot of men that they have that hate for dark women because of their mothers.
Mm-hmm.
That's something, they hate their mothers, so sometimes
Mm.
that's why they seek out that, which is, once again, that is a problem with themselves. Like, anything to do with colorism or whatever, like, you need to focus on where does it take from. This is who you are, so
Yeah.
you've gotta try to create, like, self love. So if you're gonna have, as Kiana mentioned, if you're gonna have a partner, but you're gonna have a child because you want, you want better features because of self hate, there's not necessarily a reason that that child might not be born with the
Yeah.
things that you still hate. Cause that's what's happened too.
Yeah.
That could happen.
And
So
then you hate the child.
then you hate the
In
child.
Brazil, that oh my goodness, I can't remember the exact terminology for that, but they have a thing in Portuguese. I don't know, remember the name, but basically they're breeding out the black.
The black,
So
yeah.
the grandmother, let's say she started with it. The grandmother would either make kids, marry. I don't know if she would marry the white guy, but make kids with him. Then her kids would need to marry somebody else white, and then so on and so forth until there's no more traces of like the
Black
African inside
traits
of
in
them.
them.
Yeah. And then there's like a picture, a famous picture. If I when we're editing, I'll put it inside where the black grandmother would like holding her hands up, like praising
Happy.
because the Africanness, the
It's
blackness was
gone.
erased, and that's profoundly sad.
But that is reality.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we need to figure out like why is that. And like if you don't have that, it's good. But this is still
It's
going on.
embedded. It is embedded deep. And like you mentioned, it stems from slavery. It
Yes.
stems from colonization
Yeah.
that,
We
oftentimes
continue.
we
Yeah.
adopt and perpetrate it over and over and over again. Like we whether that is subconsciously or consciously, but that's something we need
Yeah.
to really look at and try to do better because a lot of times, you might have that unconscious bias, subconscious bias of like,
Yeah.
you grew up thinking lighter is better, like, and it starts like even young, like there is a doll test. And well, in America, there's a doll test, like white or black, like which doll. And the children oftentimes pick the lighter doll. And that kind of stuff, gets taught to us and reinforced time and time again. That's why it's so important to be mindful of the type of content you consume.
Yeah.
If you grew up being subconscious about your color and you're still on your Instagram feed or whatever social media you have,
Yeah.
you're following people that reinforces that that belief that your dark skin is bad, that person might not be doing anything, but you only follow. I'm saying like you would only follow like lighter skinned people because
Yeah.
in
You have
your
to focus on that.
in
Yeah.
your heart you believe that, oh, they're beautiful. Like I would really encourage you and challenge you to follow people who look like you.
Yeah.
People who love themselves, who look like you, so that they can teach you that, hey, you can love yourself too, despite whoever told you anything negative about yourself before you could have learned how to love you. So really think about that. Like,
Yeah.
why? Ask yourself why. Like if you notice you're only dating a certain color of person, lighter skin, um, or darker skin, because some people lighter only date darker skin people. Like just interrogate that. Like to me, because I get it. Like, attraction is different, but I don't know. When it comes to coloring, that's interesting to me. Like, but people, because for me, I always say I'll date the rainbow. Like, that don't matter to me. But everyone is not like that. Like, like it really don't, color to me don't matter. Like, again, there's way more important things
Yeah,
than
I
that.
agree with that too. Cause my husband is white, and people like,
Oh,
oh,
well,
she sit down here and like, oh, like she husband white. Like that was not my intention at all. You
right.
understand? Like
It just
I
happened.
was, I was looking at the inside, not the outside. So I understand. I'm not here be passing like, oh, she talking, but she ain't doing the
Yeah.
same thing. No, it wasn't about that. I wasn't looking for light. Once again, the rainbow. Same for me.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm looking at what's on the inside. And yes, we
Exactly.
can sit there and tell you, oh, you look on the inside, but you like we like. But truly, do look on the inside.
Do look on the
Because let me
inside.
tell
That's
you,
way more important.
looks fade, things happen, right? So I'm a big advocate to look on the inside because
Yeah.
anything like it doesn't that doesn't last forever. Looks doesn't last forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely.
It don't. As
Mhm.
you're getting older, it absolutely don't. But yeah, because, again, you got to follow your heart. You got to look at things that actually matter because the color of the skin is the color of the skin. It's just,
Yeah. And
it,
just as you mentioned, like with the stuff on Instagram or wherever you're following and stuff like that. And also too, you could like try different things. See what like sometimes people do love themselves,
Mhm.
but is outside look, outside. Sometimes wearing it, try different, consume a different thing, like wear your natural hair and try to look at yourself and love yourself.
Yeah.
Really focusing on that. If you hate yourself a lot, definitely
Yeah. Because
therapy. There's something that you should
exactly,
do.
we're strong advocates for therapy.
Yeah.
And I love what you said, try different things, because let's say you grow up, your hair has always been an insecurity of yours because
Yes.
you're told not oh, your hair is too nappy or whatever. Nothing is wrong with. I am not of those women of the belief like, oh, if you wear a wig, you self hate. No, black women. One thing about us, we love to
Yes.
switch it up.
Yeah.
We love a variety of
Yeah,
hairstyle.
we're
But if
diverse.
you can never ever wear your natural hair out, I would really encourage you to work on that.
Yeah.
Because you should be able to accept yourself in your natural beauty, without enhancements, and still feel good about yourself. So if that's something that's an insecurity of yours, I would challenge you to
Yeah.
really try figure out your hair texture. If you really don't know, and you do have the resources, go to a salon that specializes in natural hair care, and really have
Yeah.
them teach you about your hair, or look up YouTube. Like we talk about that. Like we live in the age of information. Learn how to take care of your own hair, take care of your curl
Hair
pattern and all
is
that
hard
stuff.
though. It's hard.
It is hard. Like I get it. I remember when I first started natural. Like I never remember seeing my natural hair before until like I
Thank
had a
God for the
relaxer
natural hair.
yeah.
Yeah, because then there's another thing too. Like I remember, like I always wanted my hair straight, 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 and then relaxer ruined my hair. Why on earth did I want my hair straight? Like that was absurd. But that's what I thought it looked like. A lot of my family hair is straight. They'd be like, oh,
Right. That was the style.
yeah, like like, oh, you look good with your hair straight. But that's not a reality. No,
Yeah.
like But once again, black people do like switch it up. But I challenge you to definitely look at what sometimes your natural beauty might be the thing that it is for you, and
Yeah.
and it's not the voices in your head that is not even your voice, right?
Yeah.
Somebody else's voice. So that's something that I really challenge you to love yourself. Just look at it, because at the end of the day, beauty is in all different
Yeah, it's a
shades.
spectrum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, right? And you really want to try to love yourself, because this who, and you're unique, right? And you want to embrace that,
Yeah.
right? But this is not to focus, just bash on the black side or whatever. Lighter skinned people do have their own challenges.
They do.
In the black community as well.
They
Some
do.
people will be like, oh, they're not black enough, and especially in America,
Yeah.
But in the Caribbean side, it's more of the
Favorable.
towards the black side.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more favorable to be lighter.
Yeah. I guess I was just thinking about that. Yeah.
To me, I think that's like an American struggle. I've never had people. I've never, and you guys could let me know in the comments.
I've had like people who are lighter skin. I don't know. My experience has been
Yeah,
different.
but that's good. Sure,
Yeah, I've had
but
like lighter skin people not being the preferred in
the
the Caribbean.
I've never had.
Yeah.
That.
I've seen that.
Comments, guys.
I've seen that.
I didn't even know that was a thing till I moved to America.
No, I've seen that in the Caribbean too.
And they'd be upset that they like and and fighting hard to be black, and I was so confused by that.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, I guess the black Americans
because
are like.
Okay, so what?
I've never had that. I've never seen that.
And there's a thing that happens to a lot of I would say, like, for example, let me say red woman, lighter skinned women, to be respectful. A lot of times, yes, they're desired, but for what reason? Like, it's always for the wrong reason, if that makes sense. It's always to be, like, to me, they're never taken seriously.
What? Which lighter skinned woman?
I've seen that often, especially in where we grew up in Linden. I've seen that often.
Because of the promiscuous, like.
Right, there will be wanted for a good time.
We're not saying that. Just let's declare we're not saying that. People say that.
Yeah, like
in the community where we're from.
Like they will be desired for a good time, but not for anything beyond that. If that makes sense.
I've not experienced that. What I know is that they're more likely to be wiped.
I've seen it the opposite.
Let us know in the comments what you accustomed to, because the lighter you are, the more likely you are to get off of the market. That's what I know.
Is that in Linden or is that in
That
Georgia?
is general. Once again, I have like these people. I have like a lot of like family, and the darker you are, the more like, if you get a man, you're lucky.
But is that within your family or
I could only speak from what
because
I guess
I've
different family.
seen
No, but friends too.
yeah, but I've seen like light skinned women being relegated to this like the role of a side chick and stuff like that a lot.
Let us know in the comments, guys. That's not my experience. I think they are preferred friends, family. My experience, they're more likely to be preferred.
Yeah,
But
so let us know.
that's what I know.
Because I've seen the opposite a lot of times, like a few times I've seen
That
the
is
opposite
interesting to me.
happening. So I don't know, but I'm not saying
I've never seen that before.
It's so I guess it differ. Again, it's a spectrum. How things are viewed, and this episode once again to wrap it up in a nutshell is that colorism exists. It actually exists, and we challenge you to look within to really question those types of belief and thought process you may have yourself that you don't necessarily you're aware of because that's just how you roll. So if you notice that you're gravitating towards a certain type of person, a certain type of content you consume, like really question that. You question how you carry yourself, what you believe about yourself, because being dark skinned is not a problem. Having kinky, curly, nappy hair is not a bad thing. Like we need to really do away with those beliefs because a lot of times it did not come from us, and we should not accept it. In a nutshell. But yeah, so thank you for watching our very first episode of the Lyman and Healing Podcast, Season 3. We're so happy to be back. And not only are we back, we're back with merch. So check out our merch store on our website, lymanandhealing.com. And buy you something today. All of the designs were custom made by moi.
Yes. Great
So
designer.
really, really, a lot of thought process to how we represent our podcast, our community, our culture. So definitely give us a check out. If you haven't subscribed to our channels yet, please subscribe. Share this episode with a loved one. Like, comment, and let us know what you think. Yes. Have you experienced colorism? Is this something that you've dealt with? We want to know. Leave it in the comments and let us know. If you have any questions or any idea for a episode idea you want to hear this season, send us a DM. Let us know, But we're back and we're so excited to talk about all of the things this season. It's going to be a great time. I'm excited. Okay? Me
too. I'm excited.
So yeah, until we meet again, remember to bust a lime.
Bust a lime.
See you next time.